In this chapter, you will learn the types of shipping containers used for transporting sodium cyanide and the proper personal protective equipment and remediation techniques used for managing a transportation emergency involving sodium cyanide. Cyanco packages, transports, and stores sodium cyanide in several ways. Solid sodium cyanide can be packaged in plywood boxes, commonly referred to as an IBC box or intermediate bulk container. These containers have an inner lining in a polypropylene bulk bag containing the product. Each box contains 1 metric ton or 2,205 pounds of sodium cyanide briquettes. Each IBC box has large product labels attached to 2 opposite sides of the box with the hazard warning labels prominently displayed. American Association of Railroads S-286 and S-263 rail cars, referred to as Sparger cars, can transport approximately 84 metric tons or 185,000 pounds of briquettes and have DOT UN 1689 placards on each end inside of the rail car. ISO tank containers are specially built for transporting solid sodium cyanide. The ISO tank is configured for top discharge only, with the valves located in a secured box at the top rear of the ISO tank. The tank shell is built from heavy gauge stainless steel with a 1/4 inch or 7 millimeter thick heads. ISO tanks typically transport 17 metric tons or 37,480 pounds of briquettes and have DOT UN 1689 placards on each end inside of the tank. Liquid sodium cyanide is transported in specially built rail cars, tractor trailers, and ISO tanks. The rail cars are either DOT 105As or DOT 111As. Both of these types of cars are top loading and unloading only. The DOT 111 cars have been specially modified by removing the belly valve and welding a plate in place to prevent any chance of a leak from the bottom of the car. These rail cars typically can carry 75,708 liters or 20,000 gallons of liquid. For transport of liquid sodium cyanide, DOT UN 3414 placards are posted on each end inside of the rail car. The tank trailer system used to transport liquid sodium cyanide is designed to meet or exceed US DOT 412 specifications. The tank's shell is constructed of 1/4 inch stainless steel covered with several inches of foam insulation and a stainless steel outer skin. The tank trailer is highly puncture resistant. These ASME coated tanks also have internal valves for rollover protection. Tank trailers can carry up to 23,848 liters or 6,300 gallons of liquid product. Each end inside of the trailer has DOT UN 3414 placards. Specially fitted ISO tanks are used in Mexico to transport liquid sodium cyanide. These tanks are also specially built to be puncture resistant and are covered with several inches of foam insulation. These liquid ISO tanks can carry up to 23,000 liters or 6,080 gallons of liquid product. Each end and each side of the ISO tank has DOT UN 3414 placards. Specially designed ISO tanks are used at our terminal in Cheyenne, Wyoming to transport liquid sodium cyanide. These tanks are also built to be puncture resistant with 4 millimeter thick stainless steel walls covered by 2 inches of rock wool insulation and then skinned with white glass reinforced plastic. These ISO tanks carry 19,000 liters or 5,020 gallons of liquid product. Each end and side of the ISO tank has DOT UN 3414 placards. Sodium cyanide itself is not combustible. Under controlled situations, cyanide can be effectively and safely detoxified by using oxidizing agents, such as a 5% solution of sodium or calcium hypochlorite or hydrogen peroxide. Typical household bleach found on the store shelf is a 5% sodium hypochlorite solution. In the event of an accident involving loss of containment of sodium cyanide, the material recovery should be immediate and complete. The first step is to protect yourself. Use all appropriate personal protective equipment. This includes, at a minimum, hard hat, chemical splash goggles, splash-resistant face shield, chemical splash suit, cyanide-resistant gloves and boots, and a hydrogen cyanide monitor.
The truck driver indicated he's transporting solid sodium cyanide. He said there's a spill of material on the ground. I would like to send 2 people to get an inspection, to get a visual of what's going on down there. And 2 people will be here as backup.
When performing cleanup activities involving a loss of containment of sodium cyanide, either liquid or solid, use standard hazardous material response protocols. Work in pairs, with a minimum of 2 standby personnel ready as backup. If you are responding to a transportation emergency, our carriers are trained to secure the area and cooperate with responding authorities upon their arrival on the scene.
Here's all the paperwork you need, my bill of lading.
They'll have information available that can assist you with your emergency response activities, such as bill of lading and a safety data sheet. Utilize the DOT Emergency Response Guidebook's Guide number 157 to determine safe distances. Make sure to secure the area, keeping away onlookers and unprotected personnel.
No. Please stay on this side of the line. Let the professionals handle the situation. But thank you for offering.
Initially, secure an area 300 feet or 90 meters in all directions and do not allow entry unless personnel are properly protected. Use earthen material or dirt to form dikes both uphill and downhill of the spill area to control the potential runoff of contaminated material. If you have sodium carbonate or potash available, it makes an excellent diking material due to its high pH and compatibility with sodium cyanide. Remove the spill material as quickly and thoroughly as possible. In certain cases, spilled materials can be recovered and recycled. However, this practice should be carefully controlled and monitored. Any remaining material must be detoxified. The preferred chemicals for detoxifying sodium cyanide are a 5% solution of either sodium hypochlorite or hydrogen peroxide. Typical household bleach found on the store shelf is a 5% sodium hypochlorite solution. After detoxification, the remaining liquid should be recovered and disposed of according to the regulations of the state and country where the incident occurred. When cleaning up a liquid sodium cyanide spill, the same personal protective equipment as used in a solid spill should be utilized. Once the area is secured, cover the briquettes with a tarp to prevent any contact with water due to rainfall or condensation. Take special precautions to remain upwind while working around the spilled material to prevent possible exposure to sodium cyanide dust. Use shovels to scoop up the dry material and place it into overpack containers. Vacuum trucks can also be used with roll-off containers designed to contain hazardous materials. In the United States, sodium cyanide contaminated soils in aggregate can be reclaimed under certain circumstances instead of being treated as hazardous waste. This is done through U.S. regulations that allow for the reuse of materials that have not changed in chemical composition and can still be used as they were originally intended. Typically, the material is transported to the mine site and placed on the heap leach. However, you must always follow the rules and regulations of the state and country where spill cleanup is occurring when disposing of sodium cyanide contaminated materials. Special care must be taken if there is potential for uncontained, detoxified material to run off into local waterways such as a stream, river, or lake. If this is possible, then detoxification activities are not to be used. In most cases, the detoxified material is more harmful to fish and marine life than the sodium cyanide itself. All equipment that comes into contact with potentially contaminated materials must be decontaminated or detoxified and disposed of properly if necessary. Use a 5% solution of sodium hypochlorite or hydrogen peroxide for detoxifying the equipment, making sure to capture and contain all detoxified liquids for proper disposal. In case of a fire, formal turnout gear with self-contained breathing apparatus is adequate protection in most cases where sodium cyanide is involved in a fire. However, it is important to understand the specific parameters at the time of the emergency before determining if normal turnout gear with SCBA is adequate protection. On fires near or impinging on sodium cyanide in its containers, use of water is acceptable. If the containers are not ruptured, they can be cooled with water spray. If the containers are opened or burning, it may be desirable to let the fire burn itself out. An alkaline, dry extinguishing agent is recommended if available. If water is used to extinguish the fire, any contaminated runoff should be contained and detoxified with a 5% hypochlorite or hydrogen peroxide solution, since sodium cyanide readily dissolves in water. Under no circumstances should CO2 fire extinguishers be used on fires involving sodium cyanide. A violent reaction could occur between the CO2 and the sodium cyanide, releasing toxic and flammable hydrogen cyanide gas. Let's summarize what we just discussed. Sodium cyanide is shipped in various containers by truck, ship, and rail. To contain a sodium cyanide spill, use earthen material to form containment dikes downhill of the spill. Cover solid material with a tarp to prevent moisture from contacting it. Always use the buddy system with proper backup and hazmat operations involving sodium cyanide. Use DOT Emergency Response Guide 157 for guidance during hazardous material response operations. And remember to never use detoxifying agents such as sodium hypochlorite or hydrogen peroxide if the liquids cannot be prevented from entering open waterways.
If you have further questions, please contact a Cyanco technical representative at the email address on your screen. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.